Anybody who does not support the UPC is automatically branded as a guerrilla. The district of Bushenyi, the nearest district to Rwanda, the most affected area, I suppose, has all the executive of DP and UPM in detention. The whole executive is not in the country, it's in Ruzira. People like the General Secretary, Mr. Mukaira, people like the Chairman, Tuguruwayo, those men are in detention now.
Cattle trucks were first to bring their human cargoes to scenes of jubilation in Kampala. These were Uganda's voices of discontent and opposition to the old Obote regime. Voices silenced in jail. They were locked up, some for 5 years, and held without trial or reason. Their detention could have gone on indefinitely. Excited relatives, many of whom didn't know whether their men were dead or alive, tried to burst through in the scramble to recognize faces. They poured onto the streets of Kampala to freedom, defiant in the belief that their resistance had helped in Obote's downfall. The timing, 2 weeks after the coup, came because there could be no hope of national reconciliation without it. 1,400 were freed, among them women, some carrying the children they'd given birth to in prison. Political activists, youth leaders and suspected guerrillas, as well as this man, an ex-minister, were given a hero's welcome. Many of these prisoners thought they may never be released, and they described their years of captivity as monstrous, as a former police chief explained.
They were very bad, horrible. Food, there's no medical attention. At times we went without food for days.
The capital had much to celebrate, and people relaxed for the country's first public gathering under the new military leadership. By agreeing to such an early release, the new head of state, General Tito Okello, may have succeeded in clearing the way for constructive peace talks. People are tired of the bloodshed, tired of seeing their country destroyed by greed and persecution. This day of liberation gives Ugandans new hope that it may be a fresh start. Brent Sadler, ITN, Kampala.
My name is Dr. Warren Amara. I was arrested in the mid of November 1982 from theater in one of the hospitals in Kampala. I was operating on a woman who had a problem of delivery, and some two men forced their way into theater. And they asked me whether I was Dr. Namara or another doctor. I asked them what they wanted, but they were not willing to listen to the story. So all they did, they grabbed me by my own armpits and threw me out to a waiting car, a UVO 192 Peugeot 43. And I have never known what happened to the lady I was operating on. I don't know even what happened to the baby, because this was supposed to be a cesarean section. So this was around 6:30 in the evening. I was taken to Makindye Military Police, and where I witnessed the most horrifying time in my life. Right. I was given only 5 minutes to give my name, and immediately I was thrown into a cell where I found about 85 civilian prisoners and about 20 soldiers. So inside the cell, I was removed of my spectacles, my shoes taken off, my shirt and my trousers, and I was left with an underpant. And in the middle of the night, I was called out again, beaten, whipped, and asked a number of other questions, some of which I did not understand. They asked me, what do you do? I told them, look, I'm a doctor, a medical doctor. I treat patients. And that's what I do. That's what I have been doing throughout.
And they didn't tell you why they arrested you?
No, they didn't tell me. But all they were asking me is, they asked me whether I was a guerrilla or not. And I told them, look, guerrillas, when they talk about them in Kampala, they are not in the city, they are in the bush.
For hundreds, perhaps thousands of people, a journey along the dusty roads outside Kampala led to certain death. Villagers, through ignorance or fear, never really questioned why the soldiers came to such a remote place so often. Not until there was a stench of rotting flesh did they start moving closer to the truth. Now that there's more freedom to move, we discovered one place of execution. They led us to scenes of horror, corpses and skeletons scattered in the long grass. They're slowly beginning to unravel the full extent of killings and torture which the old regime had consistently denied. Here are the skeletal remains of at least a dozen people, men and women, whose bodies were left to rot. They say that more than 300 people were executed here. Many of the bodies were taken away for burial by relatives. The bones that remain will never be identified. Opponents of the deposed president, they say, were brought here and murdered, 40 shot a week before the coup.
If they cut you and they suspect that you are one of the guerrillas, no question. When you are brought here, it's just only to be shot.
And who shot them?
The soldiers.
The Bote's men?
Yeah.
Amnesty International, who were the first to reveal the scale of murders and tortures under Obote's rule, believed that at the worst periods up to 1,000 people a month were being murdered and dumped in remote places like this. For 5 years, the old regime denied there were political killings. Uganda will continue digging up the past, which may reveal the last 5 years were more savage than those of Idi Amin. We found remains that still had ropes tied around the bones, tied so that these victims could not escape the executioner's bullet. Brent Sadler, ITN, Uganda.